Dad, the best gift would be your death. That's what my daughter Jessica said to me on Thanksgiving Day, in front of 18 family members, with a smile on her face. My name is Andrew Payne. For 42 years, I was a cardiac surgeon at St. Mary's Hospital in Boston. I performed 1,247 heart surgeries. I've brought people back from the brink of death more times than I can count. I've saved senators, judges, teachers, firefighters. I've given families their fathers back, their mothers back, their children back. But apparently, to my own 35-year-old daughter, I was worth more dead than alive. When she said those words, the entire dining room went silent. You could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the corner. Everyone stared. Some gasped. A few laughed nervously. I looked at Jessica calmly and said, "Is that so? How interesting." Beppe, if you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from, because what happened next changed everything. Let me start from the beginning. You have to understand something about Jessica. She's always seen me as her personal ATM. Ever since she turned 18, it's been one financial crisis after the other. 3 months before Thanksgiving, she called me on a Tuesday morning. "Dad, I need $50,000. This was the 12th loan she'd asked for that year. 12. I keep track. "What for, Jessica?" "Does it matter? You're my father." "It matters to me." "Fine, my credit cards are maxed out. I need to consolidate." I checked my bank records later. The previous 11 loans totaled $89,000. Not one penny had been paid back. Not one. When I mentioned this, Jessica's tone changed. "Dad, you're retired. What do you even need money for? You just sit around the house all day." Sit around the house. That's how she saw 42 years of saving lives. "Jessica, I worked my entire career. So, that was your choice. You chose to be a doctor instead of a businessman. That's why you're not rich like Uncle Robert." Uncle Robert? Her mother's brother. A real estate developer who drove a Ferrari and bragged about his net worth at every family gathering. Jessica always compared me to him. "If you'd been smart about money," she continued, "you'd have millions by now. Instead, you wasted your time playing hero." Playing hero. That's what she called it when I saved lives. The second incident happened 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Jessica brought her husband Mark to my house. They wanted to discuss my future. We sat in my living room, surrounded by my medical awards. 23 certificates hung on the wall. Jessica never looked at them. "Dad, Mark and I have been talking. We think you should sell this house." "Why would I do that?" "You don't need all this space. We found a nice assisted living facility." "I'm 69, not 99. Mark jumped in. "Dr. Payne, with respect, you're not getting any younger. Wouldn't it be better to liquidate your assets now, while you can still enjoy them?" "Liquidate my assets." Translate, give us our inheritance early. "And where would I live?" "The facility has lovely rooms, cable TV, meal service, activities." "I'm not interested." Jessica's voice turned sharp. "Dad, be realistic. You're retired. You have no income. This house is just sitting here, gaining value. We're thinking about your best interests." My best interests. Right. What if I want to stay in my home? "Then you're being selfish," Jessica said. "We have a family to think about. Mark's business needs capital. I have expenses. You're just one person." Just one person. Her father, who raised her, who paid for her college, who walked her down the aisle at her wedding. I looked at both of them sitting on my couch, planning my future like I wasn't in the room. "I'll think about it," I said. That night I called my attorney, Rebecca Walsh. We'd known each other for 20 years. "Rebecca, I want to review my will." "Any particular reason?" I told her about the conversation with Jessica and Mark. "Andrew, I've seen this before. When children start talking about liquidating assets." "I know. What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time to see who my real family is." That's when I started recording our conversations. I needed to know the truth about how my own daughter really felt about me. I was about to find out. Let me tell you what was really at stake here. It wasn't just money. It was everything I'd built over 4 decades of service. My will, as it stood in November, left everything to Jessica and Grace equally. The house alone was worth $1.2 million. My retirement savings, investments, life insurance, we're talking about nearly $2 million total. Jessica knew these numbers. She'd asked about them multiple times. But there was something Jessica didn't understand about my work. Something I'd never told her. I kept a box in my study. A simple cardboard box, tucked away on a shelf behind my medical journals. For 42 years, I'd been putting thank you letters in that box. Letters from patients and their families. Letters I'd never opened. Why didn't I open them? Because I didn't become a surgeon for gratitude. I became a surgeon to save lives. Reading those letters felt like, I don't know, like taking credit for something that was bigger than me. But after Jessica's comment about playing hero, I was curious. Maybe it was time to see what those families had actually written. The first letter I opened was from 1982. A mother whose 5-year-old son I'd operated on. Dr. I. Pain because of you, my little boy got to blow out his 6th birthday candles. Because of you, he'll grow up and maybe have children of his own. You gave us our future back. The second letter was from 1995. A woman whose husband I'd saved. Dr. Payne, Tom walked our daughter down the aisle yesterday. He danced with her at her wedding. He met his first grandchild last month. None of this would have happened without you. I opened 20 letters that night. 20 families whose entire lives had changed because of my work. But Jessica saw none of that value. To her, I was just an old man hoarding money. The financial stakes were clear. If I stayed silent, if I let Jessica continue to see me as a burden, she'd eventually get everything. The house, the savings, the investments. She'd probably sell it all within a year and spend it on luxury vacations and designer handbags. But there were other stakes too. Stakes that cut deeper than money. My reputation was at stake. 42 years of building trust with patients, colleagues, the medical community. When word got around that my own daughter thought I was worthless, and word always gets around, what would that say about me as a man, as a father? My relationship with Grace was at stake too. Grace worked as a nurse at the same hospital where I'd spent my career. She'd been quiet during Jessica's recent visits, but I could see the doubt creeping in. Jessica's poisonous attitude was affecting her too. Dad, Grace had said the week before Thanksgiving, maybe Jessica has a point about the house. It is pretty big for just you. Grace, my sweet Grace, who'd followed me into healthcare, who'd always been proud of my work. Even she was starting to question whether I was being selfish. And then there was my legacy at the hospital. Dr. Thomas Mitchell, the current chief of surgery, had been my colleague for 15 years. He'd been hinting about bringing me back as a consultant. But would he still respect a man whose own family thought he was worthless? The personal stakes cut deepest of all. Every morning I looked in the mirror and saw a man who dedicated his life to healing others. But when my own daughter looked at me, she saw a selfish old man sitting on money she felt entitled to. Was I being selfish? Was Jessica right? I thought about all the nights I'd missed dinner because I was in surgery. All the school plays I'd missed because someone's heart was failing. All the family vacations we'd postponed because the hospital needed me. I'd given my life to my work, and my work had been saving other people's families. But somehow, in the prior process, I'd lost my own. The stakes couldn't have been higher. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about whether a lifetime of service meant anything, whether saving over 1,000 lives counted for something, whether being a good man in the world was worth anything to my own flesh and blood. I was about to find out exactly what my daughter thought of me, and once I knew the truth, there would be no going back. The confrontation came 3 days before Thanksgiving. Jessica called and invited herself over for dinner. She arrived with Mark and a folder full of papers. "Dad, we need to talk. Seriously." We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd helped Jessica with homework 20 years ago. "I brought some documents for you to review," she said, sliding the folder across the table. I opened it. Real estate listings for assisted living facilities, financial planning documents, a power of attorney form with Mark's name already typed in. "Jessica, what is this?" "Dad, Mark and I have been thinking." You can't live alone forever. I'm not alone forever. I'm alone right now. There's a difference. You're being difficult. I'm being realistic. I'm 69, not 99. Mark leaned forward. Dr. Payne, we're worried about your cognitive function. My what? You're forgetting things. Jessica told me you couldn't remember where you put your car keys last week. I stared at him. I was looking for my car keys for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. It's a sign, Jessica said. Early dementia runs in families. Your mother didn't have dementia. Her father did. This was news to me. No, he didn't. Your grandfather died of a heart attack. You don't remember. I was starting to understand what was happening here. Jessica was rewriting family history to support her narrative. Jessica, I remember everything about your grandfather. I operated on him twice. Dad, you're confused. I'm not confused. I'm concerned about why you're lying. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Mark jumped in again. Dr. Payne, we're not lying. We're trying to help. Help with what, exactly? Your transition to the next phase of life, which is assisted living, professional care, peace of mind for everyone. I looked at the documents again. The assisted living facility cost $8,000 a month. The financial planning document showed my assets being managed by Mark's investment firm. The power of attorney would give him control over all my decisions. This isn't about my health, I said. This is about my money. Jessica's mask slipped for a second. Dad, don't be ridiculous. Am I being ridiculous, or am I being realistic about what you're really after? We're after what's best for you. What's best for me is staying in my home. Your home is too big, too expensive, too much responsibility. For who? For you! Or for you to wait for your inheritance? Silence. Mark tried to salvage the conversation. Dr. Payne, nobody's talking about inheritance. I looked at him, really looked at him. Mark, what do you do for a living? I'm a financial advisor. And how much do financial advisors make managing $2 million in assets? He didn't answer. About $40,000 a year, I continued, assuming a 2% fee. Dad, you're being paranoid, Jessica said. Am I? Or am I being a man who's worked 42 years and doesn't want to be pushed into a nursing home so his son-in-law can make a commission? That's when Jessica showed her true colors. Dad, you're being incredibly selfish. How am I being selfish? You're sitting on all this money while we're struggling. You're struggling? Mark's business needs capital. I have credit card debt. You have everything you need, and you won't help us. I've helped you plenty. $89,000 this year alone. That's not help. That's what fathers do. Is it? What do daughters do? She stared at me. I've given you nearly $90,000 in 12 months, I continued. Not once have you asked about my health. Not once have you asked about my day. You call when you need money. That's it. That's not true. When was the last time you called just to talk? Silence. When was the last time you asked about my work, my patients, anything about my life that doesn't involve your bank account? Dad, that's not fair. What's not fair is having a daughter who sees her father as a retirement plan. Mark stood up. I think we should go. Good idea, I said. As they gathered their papers, Jessica turned back to me. Dad, we're trying to help you transition gracefully, but if you won't accept help... What? What happens if I won't accept help? She looked me in the eye. Then you'll force us to take other steps. What other steps? Legal steps. Competency hearings, medical evaluations. I sat back in my chair. My own daughter was threatening to have me declared mentally incompetent. I see. We don't want to do that. But you will. If we have to. They left. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, staring at the power of attorney document with Mark's name on it. That's when I made a decision. I walked to my study and pulled out my phone. It was time to start recording everything. The next morning, I got a phone call that would change everything. Andrew, it's Tom Mitchell. Dr. Mitchell had been my colleague for 15 years. He'd taken over as chief of surgery when I retired. Tom, good to hear from you. Listen, I'm calling with an interesting opportunity. The hospital board wants to name the new cardiac wing after you. I nearly dropped the phone. What? The Andrew Payne Cardiac Center. They're planning the dedication ceremony for January. For 42 years, I'd worked at that hospital. I'd trained dozens of residents. I'd built the cardiac surgery program from the ground up. But I'd never expected this kind of recognition. Tom, I don't know what to say. Say yes, you've earned it. How did this happen? Funny story. Do you remember Senator Williams's wife? You operated on her in 2019. Vaguely. Emergency surgery, wasn't it? Massive heart attack. You saved her life. Well, the senator never forgot. When the board started discussing the new wing, he made a generous donation with one condition, that it be named after you. Senator Williams. I remembered now. His wife had been given less than an hour to live when they brought her in. The surgery took 6 hours. Andrew, there's something else. The board wants you to consider coming back part-time, as a consultant. I'm retired, Tom. I know, but we've had some complex cases lately. Cases that would benefit from your experience. What kind of cases? 3-year-old with a congenital heart defect. The parents specifically requested you. They requested me? Your reputation hasn't disappeared just because you retired. If anything, it's grown. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went to the hospital. Walking through those halls felt like coming home. Nurses stopped to greet me. Residents asked about cases they'd observed during my surgeries. Other doctors mentioned patients I'd saved, lives I'd changed. Dr. Payne, a young nurse approached me. I don't know if you remember me. Lisa Chen, you operated on my father 5 years ago. I didn't remember her specifically, but I nodded politely. He's doing great. Walks 2 miles every day. He talks about you all the time. These conversations continued all afternoon. A maintenance worker whose mother I'd saved, a security guard whose brother I'd operated on, an administrator whose daughter had been one of my patients. I realized something that day. At the hospital, I wasn't just Andrew Payne, retired surgeon. I was Dr. Andrew Payne, the man who'd saved over 1,000 lives. But at home, I was just an old man sitting on money his daughter wanted to inherit. When I got home, I found a voice message on my answering machine. Dad, it's Grace. I heard about the cardiac wing. That's incredible. I'm so proud of you. I wanted to celebrate, but Jessica said you might be busy planning your move to assisted living. Call me when you get this. Even Grace thought I was moving to assisted living. Jessica's narrative was spreading through the family like cancer. That evening, I sat in my study and opened more letters from the cardboard box. Dr. Payne, my daughter is now a doctor herself, inspired by the compassion you showed our family. Dr. Payne, my son named his firstborn after you, Andrew James Thompson. Dr. Payne, our family prays for you about every night. You gave us a miracle. Letter after letter, family after family, life after life. By patients' count, I'd saved 1,247 people, but the ripple effect was impossible to calculate. How many children got to grow up with their fathers because of my work? How many grandchildren got to meet their grandparents? How many families stayed whole? But Jessica saw none of this value. To her, I was just a selfish old man. I made a decision that night. I called Rebecca Walsh. Rebecca, I want to change my will. What kind of changes? I want to leave everything to Grace and the hospital's Cardiac Research Foundation. Everything? Almost everything. Leave Jessica $1, the legal minimum. Andrew, are you sure about this? I'm sure, but I want to wait until after Thanksgiving to make it official. Why wait? Because I want to hear what Jessica really thinks of me, in front of witnesses. That sounds risky. Rebecca, I've spent my career taking calculated risks to save lives. This is just another surgery. And if Jessica says something terrible, then I'll know I'm making the right decision. I hung up the phone and looked at the thank you letters scattered across my desk. Thanksgiving was 2 days away. Thanksgiving Day arrived cold and gray. I'd agreed to host dinner for the extended family, 18 people total. Jessica had insisted on helping with the planning, which should have been my first warning. She arrived early with Mark, carrying flowers and wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Dad, you look tired. Are you sure you're up for hosting? I'm fine, Jessica. It's a lot of work for someone your age. Someone my age. I was 69, not 99, but Jessica had been making these comments all week, planting seeds of doubt about my competence. Grace arrived next with her husband David and their 2 kids. She hugged me warmly. "Dad, I'm so excited about the cardiac wing. You heard about that? Dr. Mitchell called me yesterday. He said the board voted unanimously. That's incredible." Jessica's smile faltered. "What cardiac wing?" "The hospital is naming the new cardiac center after Dad," Grace said proudly. "Oh." Jessica looked like she'd swallowed something bitter. "That's nice." Nice. That's how she described the highest honor a surgeon could receive. The other relatives arrived over the next hour. My sister Margaret and her family. My brother-in-law, Robert, the real estate developer Jessica always compared me to. Various cousins and their children. As we gathered around the dinner table, I noticed Jessica positioning herself at the head, directly across from me. She'd never done that before. Usually she sat wherever she could find a spot. Today she wanted to be seen. The conversation started normally. Updates about work, children's school performances, holiday travel plans. Robert dominated the discussion, as usual, talking about his latest real estate deals. "The market's incredible right now," he said. "I just closed on a $15 million commercial property." Jessica hung on his every word. "Uncle Robert, you always know exactly how to maximize your investments." "It's about timing, Jesse, and courage. You have to be willing to take risks." "That's so smart. Some people are too conservative with money." I knew that comment was directed at me. As dinner progressed, Jessica's comments became more pointed. "Dad seems tired lately. Don't you think he looks tired, everyone?" "I think he looks great," Margaret said. "Really? I've been worried about his memory. He's been forgetting things." "I haven't forgotten anything," I said quietly. "Dad, last week you couldn't find your car keys. For 2 minutes. It was longer than that. It was exactly 2 minutes. I remember because I was timing it." Robert jumped in. "Memory issues run in families. Our father started showing signs around Andrew's age. This was getting out of hand. Your father didn't have memory issues. He died of a heart attack at 73. "That's not what Mom told me," Jessica said. "Your mother never said anything about dementia because there wasn't any dementia." "Dad, you don't remember everything." The table was getting uncomfortable. I could see Grace looking concerned. Margaret was frowning. The grandchildren were quiet, sensing tension. But Jessica wasn't finished. "Mark and I have been researching assisted living facilities. There are some beautiful places with full medical staff." "Jessica," Margaret said, "your father seems perfectly capable of living independently." "You don't see him every day, Aunt Margaret. He's slowing down." "I'm sitting right here," I said. "We know, Dad. We're just worried about you." "Are you, or are you worried about my money?" The table went silent. You could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the corner. Jessica's cheeks flushed. "Dad, that's a terrible thing to say." "Is it terrible? Or is it accurate? We're talking about your safety." "My safety? Or your inheritance?" Robert tried to lighten the mood. "Come on, everyone. It's Thanksgiving." But Jessica wasn't backing down. "Dad, you're being paranoid." "Am I? This morning you asked me about updating my will. Yesterday you brought power of attorney documents. Last week you wanted me to sell my house. Because we care about you. Do you? When was the last time you called just to talk? When was the last time you asked about my day? My health? My feelings?" Jessica looked around the table, seeking support. "Everyone here knows how much I love my father." "Do they? Tell them about the $89,000. "Dad, tell them about the 12 loans this year. Tell them how much you've paid back." "That's private." "Is it? You've made our business public by discussing my competence in front of the family." The tension was thick enough to cut. Margaret looked shocked. Grace was staring at her sister. The grandchildren were confused. Robert tried again. "Maybe we should change the subject." But something had been building in Jessica all day, all year really, and now it was coming out. "You want to know what I think?" Jessica stood up. "I think you're being incredibly selfish." "Now how am I being selfish? You have everything, this beautiful house, all that money sitting in the bank, all those investments, and you won't share any of it." "I've given you nearly $90,000 this year. That's not sharing. That's grudgingly doling out scraps while we struggle. You're struggling? Mark's business needs capital. I have debt. We have a family to think about. So do I. I have a family too. You're one person. We're building something. What are you building? Designer handbag collections? Luxury vacation memories? Jessica's face went red. At least we're living. You're just sitting here, hoarding money, waiting to die. The entire table gasped. Jessica, Margaret said. But Jessica wasn't finished. She looked around the table at all 18 family members, making sure everyone could hear her clearly. Then she looked directly at me. You want to know what I really think? Honestly, the best gift you could give this family would be your death. Complete silence. The grandfather clock stopped ticking. Or maybe I just couldn't hear it anymore. Everyone stared, some with shock, some with horror, a few with their mouths hanging open. I looked at Jessica calmly, the same way I'd looked at her when she was 5 years old and had thrown a tantrum in a grocery store. Is that so? I said quietly. How interesting. Jessica realized what she'd just said, in front of 18 witnesses, including her own children. Dad, I didn't mean... No, I said, standing up slowly. I think you meant exactly what you said. I looked around the table at everyone's faces. My sister Margaret looked horrified. Grace was crying. Robert was staring at his plate. The grandchildren were confused and scared. Well, I said, this has been illuminating. I walked to the kitchen and picked up my phone. I had a call to make. The call I made was to Dr. Mitchell. Tom, it's Andrew. Sorry to bother you on Thanksgiving. No problem. How's dinner going? Interesting. Listen, would you mind stopping by? There's something I'd like the family to hear. Everything okay? I think so, but it would help to have a witness. I'll be right over. When I returned to the dining room, Jessica was trying to control the damage. Everyone, I'm sorry. I was upset. I didn't mean what I said. Didn't you? I asked, sitting back down. Dad, please. I was frustrated. You know I love you. Do I? Grace wiped her eyes. Dad, what Jessica said was awful, but she's been under a lot of stress lately. We're all under stress, Grace. I don't wish death on anyone because of it. Margaret finally spoke up. Jessica, what you said was unforgivable. I know, Aunt Margaret. I'm sorry. Are you sorry that you said it? I asked. Or sorry that you said it in front of witnesses? Before Jessica could answer, the doorbell rang. I'll get it, I said. Dr. Mitchell stood on my porch, still wearing his casual Thanksgiving clothes. Tom, thank you for coming. Of course. What's going on? You'll see. I led him to the dining room. Everyone looked confused to see the chief of surgery at our family dinner. Everyone, this is Dr. Thomas Mitchell. He's the current chief of surgery at St. Mary's. Dr. Mitchell, I continued, would you mind telling my family about the cardiac wing? Tom looked around the table, sensing the tension but playing along. Of course, the hospital board voted unanimously to name our new cardiac wing after your father. The Andrew Payne Cardiac Center will be dedicated in January. Why? Jessica asked flatly. Tom looked surprised by the question. Because your father is a legend. In 42 years, he saved over 1,200 lives. He built our cardiac surgery program from nothing. But he's retired now, Jessica said. Retired, yes, but his reputation hasn't diminished. If anything, it's grown. We have patients requesting him specifically. He's 69 years old. Tom looked at me confused. Age doesn't diminish expertise, Jessica. Your father could perform surgery better at 69 than most surgeons half his age. Could? I asked. Andrew, I've been meaning to ask, would you consider taking on that pediatric case? The 3-year-old with the congenital heart defect? The parents are specifically requesting you. I could see Jessica's shock. Parents were requesting her washed-up father for their child's surgery. What kind of defect? I asked. Tetralogy of Fallot. Complex case. High risk. When would they need an answer? Soon, the child's condition's deteriorating. Grace spoke up. Dad, you should do it. Should I? Jessica thinks I'm too old and forgetful. And the room was watching this conversation like a tennis match. Dr. Mitchell, Margaret said, exactly how many lives did Andrew save? 1,247 documented surgeries with a 97.8% success rate. But the real number is probably higher. Emergency procedures, consultations, training other surgeons. 97.8%, Robert repeated slowly. Best in the hospital's history, Tom said proudly. I went to my study and returned with the cardboard box. Tom, I want you to see something. I opened the box and pulled out a handful of letters. 42 years of thank you notes. I never opened them because I didn't need gratitude. But maybe it's time everyone heard what families actually think about my work. I handed a letter to Tom. Would you mind reading this one? Tom opened it. This is from 2018. Dr. Payne, because you saved my husband's life, our daughter got to dance with her father at her wedding. Our grandson will get to know his grandfather. You didn't just save one life, you saved our entire family's future. I handed him another letter. This one. From 2015, Dr. Payne, my son is now a doctor himself, inspired by the compassion you showed our family during the darkest time of our lives. Another letter. Dr. Payne, our family prays for you every night. You performed a miracle when every other doctor had given up hope. And another. Dr. Payne, my daughter named her firstborn Andrew, after you. He'll grow up knowing he's named after the man who saved his grandfather's life. Tom looked around the table. I could read these all night. Andrew, why didn't you ever show these to anyone? Because I didn't save lives for recognition. I saved lives because it was my job. Your job? Grace said, tears in her eyes. Dad, this isn't just a job. This is a calling. I pulled out my phone and played a voice message from earlier that week. Dr. Payne, this is Senator Williams. I know you're retired, but I wanted to thank you again for saving my wife's life. Because of you, she was able to meet our first grandchild last month. The hospital told me about the cardiac center. It's a fitting tribute to an extraordinary man. The room was completely silent now. Here's another one, I said, playing a second message. Dr. Payne, this is Judge Harrison. You operated on my son 15 years ago. He just graduated from law school. I think about you every time I see him. Thank you for giving me my boy back. I looked directly at Jessica. These are the people who understand the value of what I've done with my life. These are families who know what it means to save a life. Tom spoke up. Andrew, there's something else. The Cardiac Research Foundation wants to endow a scholarship in your name for medical students pursuing cardiac surgery. How much? Robert asked. The initial endowment would be $2 million. You could hear a pin drop. Jessica's face had gone white. $2 million. More than my entire estate. Dr. Mitchell, I said, would you mind telling my family what happened 3 months ago with Mrs. Chen? Mrs. Chen was given 12 hours to live. Multiple heart attacks, massive damage. Every cardiologist in Boston said she was inoperable, but I called Andrew for a consultation. And? You looked at her scans for 20 minutes and found a surgical approach no one else had considered. You came out of retirement for one day and saved her life. Margaret was crying now. Andrew, I had no idea. Most people don't. I don't talk about my work at family dinners. Grace stood up and hugged me. Dad, I'm so proud of you. Robert looked ashamed. Andrew, I owe you an apology. I've been bragging about real estate deals while you've been saving lives. I looked at Jessica. She was staring at this table, realizing that her selfish old father was actually a medical legend whose work had touched thousands of families. Dr. Mitchell, I said, I'll take the pediatric case. Really? Really? Some things are more important than retirement. Tom smiled. The parents will be thrilled. As Tom prepared to leave, he shook my hand. Andrew, it's good to have you back. After he left, I looked around the table at my family. So, I said quietly, does anyone still think the best gift would be my death? The silence stretched for a full minute, 18 family members staring at Jessica, waiting for her response. She opened her mouth, then closed it. What could she possibly say? Dad, Save it, I said quietly. I heard what I needed to hear. I stood up and walked to the phone. Rebecca, it's Andrew. Yes, I know it's Thanksgiving, but I want to make those changes to my will tonight. Everyone could hear my side of the conversation. Yes, tonight. Can you come over? Good. Bring the documents. I hung up and returned to the table. Dad, Grace said. What changes? Significant ones. Jessica found her voice. What kind of changes? I looked at her. The same look I gave residents when they made a mistake in surgery. Calm, disappointed, final. The kind that reflect what my daughter really thinks of me. Dad, please. I was angry. I said something terrible, but nothing. You said what you've been thinking for years. You just finally said it out loud. Margaret tried to mediate. Andrew, maybe we should all cool down. Margaret, my daughter wished for my death in front of 18 witnesses. This isn't a family squabble. This is a fundamental revelation about her character. Mark finally spoke up. Dr. Payne, Jessica didn't mean... Mark, stay out of this. You've done enough damage with your power of attorney papers and your financial management schemes. Rebecca Walsh arrived 45 minutes later. She's a small woman in her 50s, but she commands respect. 20 years of estate law will do that. Andrew called and asked me to bring revised documents, she announced to the room. He wants to execute them tonight. Execute what documents? Jessica asked, panic creeping into her voice. Rebecca opened her briefcase. A new last will and testament. What changes is he making? Rebecca looked at me. I nodded. Andrew is leaving his entire estate to his daughter Grace and the St. Mary's Hospital Cardiac Research Foundation. What about Jessica? Robert asked. Jessica will receive $1, the legal minimum required by Massachusetts law. The room exploded. Dad, you can't be serious. Jessica stood up, knocking her chair backward. I'm completely serious. This is insane. You're cutting me out of my inheritance over one stupid comment? One comment? Jessica, for 2 years you've treated me like a burden. You've asked for money 12 times this year. You've tried to put me in assisted living. You've questioned my mental competence. And tonight, you publicly wished for my death. I was angry. So am I. Grace was crying. Dad, this feels wrong. Jessica is still your daughter. And I'm still her father. But fathers don't owe their children inheritances, especially children who wish them dead. Rebecca spread the documents on the table. Andrew, are you certain about this decision? Completely certain. You understand that once you sign these documents, they supersede your previous will? I understand. Jessica was hyperventilating. Dad, please, think about what you're doing. I am thinking. For the first time in years, I'm thinking clearly. What about my children? Your grandchildren? What about them? You're their mother. It's your job to provide for them, not mine. Dad, I can't provide for them without help. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you wished for my death. Mark tried a different approach. Dr. Payne, this seems like an emotional decision. Maybe you should sleep on it. Mark, I'm a surgeon. I've made life and death decisions in seconds. This decision isn't emotional, it's logical. How is this logical? I looked around the table. Everyone was listening. For 42 years, I saved lives. I brought families together. I gave children their fathers back, gave wives their husbands back, gave parents their children back. I spent my career creating happy endings for other families. I paused. But my own daughter wishes I was dead. That tells me everything I need to know about my success as a father. Dad, that's not fair, Grace said. You were a wonderful father. Was I? A wonderful father would have raised a daughter who valued life, who understood sacrifice, who appreciated what it means to dedicate your existence to helping others. I looked at Jessica. Instead, I raised a daughter who sees her father as an obstacle to her inheritance. Rebecca cleared her throat. Andrew, I need 2 witnesses for the signature. Grace, would you witness this? Grace looked torn. Dad, I don't feel comfortable. Margaret? My sister nodded reluctantly. If this is what you want. Robert? Robert looked at Jessica, then at me. Andrew, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Rebecca laid out the documents. 3 pages, typed and official. This is your new will, she said. Page 1 establishes your mental competence and revokes all previous wills. Page 2 details the distribution of your assets. Page 3 contains specific bequests and your final wishes. I read each page carefully. Everyone watched in silence. "The house goes to Grace," I said aloud. "The retirement accounts go to the Cardiac Research Foundation. The life insurance creates an endowment for medical student scholarships." "What about me?" Jessica whispered. "You get $1, as required by law." "Dad, please." "Jessica, you said the best gift would be my death. Consider this my gift to you while I'm still alive. You get to see exactly what your inheritance is worth when you wish your father dead." I signed the first page. Margaret and Robert witnessed it. I signed the second page. They witnessed again. On the third page, Rebecca had included a personal note section. I wrote, "To Jessica, you wanted my death as a gift. Instead, I'm giving you a lesson about the value of life. Some words can't be taken back. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Choose your words more carefully with the people who love you." I signed the final page. "It's done," Rebecca said, gathering the documents. "I'll file these with the court on Monday." Jessica collapsed into her chair. "I can't believe you actually did it." "Believe it. You've destroyed our family." "No, Jessica. You destroyed our family when you wished for my death." Grace stood up. "I need some air." As people started to leave, Jessica made one final attempt. "Dad, what if I apologize? What if I make this right?" I looked at her for a long moment. "Jessica, some things can't be made right. Some words cut too deep. Some betrayals are too fundamental. So that's it? You're writing me off forever?" "I'm not writing you off. I'm simply responding to what you told me you wanted. You wanted me dead. Now you can pretend I am. The result is the same." She started crying. Real tears this time, not crocodile tears. But I was done. 42 years of saving lives had taught me something important. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved, and you can't love someone who wishes you were dead. The fallout began immediately. By Black Friday, someone had posted a video of Jessica's Thanksgiving outburst online. I don't know who recorded it, probably one of the teenagers, but within 48 hours, it had been viewed over 2 million times. The video was brutal. You could see Jessica clearly saying, "The best gift you could give this family would be your death," followed by 18 people gasping in horror. The comments section was merciless. "Who wishes death on their own father? This is what's wrong with entitled kids these days. Her father is a hero and she wants him dead for money? Disgusting." The Boston Globe picked up the story 3 days later. The headline read, "Prominent Surgeon Disinherits Daughter After Thanksgiving Death Wish." The article was surprisingly thorough. They interviewed Dr. Mitchell, who spoke about my career and the upcoming cardiac center dedication. They found 3 families whose lives I'd saved. They even tracked down Senator Williams, who gave a quote about my extraordinary dedication to preserving life. The contrast was stark. On one side, a surgeon who'd saved over 1,000 lives. On the other, a daughter who'd wished him dead. Jessica called me 6 times that first week. I didn't answer. She sent a letter. I didn't read it. She showed up at my house. I didn't answer the door. Grace, meanwhile, was devastated. "Dad, I can't accept this inheritance. It feels wrong." "Grace, you've spent your career as a nurse, helping people heal. You understand the value of life. That's why you deserve it." "But Jessica is still my sister." "And she'll always be your sister, but she's not my heir." "What if she changes? What if she learns from this?" "Grace, I'm 69 years old. I don't have time to wait for Jessica to become a different person." The hospital board moved quickly on the cardiac center dedication. What had been planned for January was moved up to December. They wanted to capitalize on the positive publicity. Dr. Mitchell called with updates. "Andrew, the donations are pouring in. Families whose lives you saved are contributing to the research foundation. We've raised over $300,000 in 2 weeks." "That's incredible. There's more. Harvard Medical School wants to create a fellowship program in your name, full ride for cardiac surgery residents." "Tom, this is overwhelming. This is overdue. Your story has reminded people what medicine is really about. Saving lives, not making money." The pediatric surgery I'd agreed to perform was scheduled for December 15th. The 3-year-old with tetralogy of Fallot. His name was Michael. I met with his parents the week before surgery. "Dr. Payne, we can't thank you enough for coming out of retirement," his mother said. "We know you didn't have to do this," his father added. "Yes, I did. When a child needs surgery, you don't say no." The surgery took 4 hours, complex reconstruction of his heart's anatomy. But Michael pulled through beautifully. His recovery was textbook perfect. As I walked out of the operating room, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Purpose. Joy. The satisfaction of saving a life. Dr. Mitchell met me in the hallway. "How did it go?" "Perfect. Michael will have a normal life." "Andrew, I have news. The family made a donation to the Research Foundation. $500,000. $500,000? Tom, that's incredible. They said it was the least they could do for the man who gave them their son's future back." That night I went home and called Grace. "How did the surgery go, Dad?" "Perfectly. Michael will be fine. I'm so proud of you." "Grace, I want you to know something. This inheritance isn't a burden. It's an opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" "To continue what I started. To help other families like Michael's. To support research that will save lives." "Dad, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that my money will save more lives after I'm gone than I ever could while I'm alive. That's a legacy worth leaving." Grace was quiet for a moment. "Dad, you're not going anywhere for a long time." "I know, but when I do go, I'll go knowing that my life's work will continue." 2 weeks later, I received a call from Jessica's husband, Mark. "Dr. Payne, Jessica is in therapy. She's trying to understand what went wrong." "Mark, that's between Jessica and her therapist. She wants to apologize, really apologize. She had her chance to apologize. At Thanksgiving dinner, she doubled down. People can change. Maybe, but I'm not holding my breath. What would it take? For you to forgive her?" I thought about that question for a long time. "Mark, for 42 years, I fought to save lives. I never gave up on a patient, no matter how hopeless the case seemed. But Jessica didn't just insult me. She wished for my death. That's not something you forgive. That's something you learn from." "Learn what?" "That some people value money more than life, and those people can't be trusted with either." Christmas came and went quietly. Grace invited me to her house. We talked about the cardiac center, about Michael's recovery, about the scholarship fund. We didn't talk about Jessica. On New Year's Eve, I sat in my study reading thank you letters from the cardboard box. Letters from families whose lives I'd touched. Children who grew up because I saved their parents. Parents who watched their children graduate because I repaired their hearts. At midnight, I raised a glass of wine to the empty room. "To 1,247 lives saved," I said aloud, "and to the one life that chose to value death over family." The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent my career bringing people back to life. But some people, it turns out, prefer to stay dead inside. 6 months later, I was standing in the Andrew Payne Cardiac Center, watching young doctors train. The same equipment I'd used to save lives for 4 decades. The dedication ceremony had been beautiful. Senator Williams spoke about the importance of honoring medical heroes. Dr. Mitchell announced that the Research Foundation had raised over $2 million. 3 families whose lives I'd saved shared their stories. Jessica didn't attend. Grace stood beside me as we watched a surgical demonstration. "Dad, do you ever regret your decision?" "About the will?" "No." "Even though Jessica is family?" "Grace, family isn't just about blood. It's about values. It's about respect. It's about understanding what matters in life." She's been trying to change. Has she? Or has she been trying to get her inheritance back? Grace didn't answer, which told me everything. "Grace, let me ask you something. When you became a nurse, what motivated you?" "I wanted to help people heal." "Exactly. You chose a profession dedicated to preserving life. You understand what my work meant because you share those values." I gestured to the cardiac center around us. "This is my real legacy, not money sitting in a bank account. These doctors will save thousands of lives. The research funded by my estate will develop new procedures, new treatments. Michael, that little boy I operated on, he's running around, playing soccer, living a normal life." "I know, Dad." Jessica never understood that. To her, my career was just a job that didn't make enough money. She never saw the value in what I did. Maybe she was just young. Grace, she's 35 years old. That's not young. That's old enough to understand the difference between saving lives and making money. A young resident approached us. Dr. Payne, I'm Sarah Collins. I just wanted to thank you for the scholarship fund. I'm one of the recipients. Congratulations, Sarah. What's your specialty? Pediatric cardiac surgery. Because of doctors like you, children like my brother get to live normal lives. After Sarah walked away, Grace squeezed my hand. I think I understand now, Dad. This isn't about punishing Jessica. It's about rewarding people who share your values. Exactly. My money is going to people who will use it to save lives. That feels right. My phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. Dr. Payne, this is Michael's mom. He just scored his first goal in soccer. Thank you for giving us our miracle. I showed the message to Grace. Dad, this is what Jessica never understood. The real inheritance wasn't money. It was purpose. That's right. And purpose can't be bought or inherited. It has to be earned. We watched the young doctors for a few more minutes. Future lifesavers, funded by my estate, carrying on the work I'd started. Dad, do you miss her? Jessica? I miss the daughter I thought I had, the one who would have been proud of my work instead of resentful of my choices. What if she really changes? What if she learns from this? Then she'll learn one of life's most important lessons, that words have consequences, that wishing death on someone who dedicated his life to preserving life is unforgivable. And if she doesn't learn, then she'll continue to be the person she chose to be, entitled, ungrateful, more concerned with inheriting money than earning respect. I looked around the cardiac center one more time. Grace, I've made peace with my decision. Jessica chose money over family. I chose family over money. The difference is my family consists of people who value what I valued. Life, service, making the world better than we found it. Including me, especially you. We walked toward the exit. As we passed a memorial wall, I noticed a new plaque. In honor of Dr. Andrew Payne, who taught us that every life is worth saving, and that some gifts are worth more than money. But below it, a quote I'd never seen before. The best gift is not death, but the chance to live with purpose. I smiled. Someone understood. As we reached the parking lot, Grace asked one final question. Dad, what would you say to people watching this story? People who might be dealing with ungrateful family members? I thought about that. I'd say this. You can't control how other people treat you, but you can control how you respond. Set boundaries. Protect your dignity. And remember that family is defined by love and respect, not just genetics. And if they wish you were dead, then grant their wish, not by dying, but by removing yourself from their lives. Let them discover what life is like without you. That's harsh. Grace, I spent my career fighting death. I won't tolerate anyone who welcomes it. We got in our cars. As I drove home, I thought about Jessica one last time. Then I turned on the radio and listened to music instead. Some chapters end. Some bridges burn. Some gifts, once given, can't be returned. And sometimes, that's exactly how it should be. If you're watching this, let me know in the comments. What would you do if your own child wished for your death? How would you protect your legacy? And don't forget to subscribe. Life is short. Make it count.